Okay, so everybody knows this sound, especially people from the west of Ireland. It's around us all the time. And it's kind of funny, when you take the image away from this sound, it actually gets a little bit more power. You know, we're here in a theater, but right now you're actually picturing somewhere different, right? It feels different, you know? Today I'm going to talk to you about a kind of an aspect when creating art that's very simple, but it's also very important. A couple of years ago, I was about to quit music completely and get a real job. I had just finished a major record label album. It was about 2 years in the making, and it was these kind of perfect pop songs, these like 3-minute long pop songs that had these really kind of catchy choruses, and it was perfect for radio. But it wasn't really doing that well. People weren't really picking up on it. They weren't really connecting to it at all. And me personally, worst of all, I didn't really like it at all. You know, I was getting sick of playing it already, and it had only just come out. And I was getting really frustrated by that. Usually when you're an electronic music producer, it kind of works like this. Let's say you want to put a snare drum sound in a song, okay? You download 100 snare sounds from the internet, and then you go through them, and then you find one that you like, and then you put it into the song. Now, that doesn't really mean anything. You're kind of taking a sound because you think it sounds right. You think it sounds like what this music should sound, what this genre should sound like. And I was getting really frustrated by this. And during that same time when I was feeling really frustrated, I was helping my grandmother clean out her house. And on her dresser, there was a CD, and it was like a blank little CD, and it just had her name, Mary Keane, just over it. And I asked her what it was, and she said, oh, this is an interview that I did with a lady who was making a radio show. She came to the house, and basically the radio show never got made, and she just sent me the CD of the interview. So I robbed the CD, of course, and I took it with me, and I put it into my car, and I started playing the interview, and it kind of starts like this.
Well, my name is Mary Keane. I live in Ballyvaughan, but I was reared in Kilshanny, Slievenagry, Kilshanny. I was born in 1925.
So this interview was about 2 hours long, okay? In it, she talks about growing up in Clare, what it was like, what her family was like. She goes off on some pretty weird tangents. For instance, she does start talking about chickens, and chickens that can't lay eggs, which is here.
Yeah, well then the ones that wouldn't be then, they used to call them gluggers. The ones that wouldn't be fertilised, you know, with the cock. So then the next thing would be, you might have a lot of gluggers, and they'd have to get rid of that cock. He was no.
Next year, Mary Keane is going to do a talk on chickens, probably, I would say. So then that was going on, and then she started talking about how she met her husband, who was my grandfather. And as I was driving, this came over on my stereo.
Then all the time when you'd be at home, your father and they'd be always looking for a good man for you, you know. Of course, I didn't ever expect to get someone I fell in love with. And my father would come, and my uncle would come, and he'd say, Mary, this man over in Cairn has a big farm of land. You'll have to go over and meet. So no, I didn't. I met my future husband down in Kilfenora, and I fell in love with him.
So there's a couple of reasons why this is an absolutely incredible sample, okay? Number one, okay, it has an incredible sense of place. It feels really Irish. You know, her accent, the turn of phrase, the subject matter, it all feels really Irish. Number two, it's full of emotion, okay? You can hear this woman talking about the person she fell in love with. You can hear the crack in her voice. It would be really hard to recreate this with an actor or something like that, you know? And then third of all, it meant something to me. It was incredibly personal to me, okay? This is my grandmother talking about how she met my grandfather. You can't really get much more personal than that. I was just blown away by it, and I brought it home, and I started writing music with it. I started creating these really hopeful chords based on the kind of the subject matter, and it basically turned into this.
When we were in our young days, we had several boyfriends, you know, and you'd have them maybe for just going to dances with, and there'd be no more about it. But sure, didn't we think we were got under the handicap with Charles? I think we were nearly 15 years before we knew where we were got. There was an awful lot of people on the run, they used to call it here. How many people slipped in our mountain up here every night? All around our valley slipped up the side of the mountain. There was about 10 young fellas all up above that the mountain there above. They have their beds under the mountain. I didn't ever expect to get someone I fell in love with. And my father would come, and my uncle would come, and he'd say, Mary, this man over in Cairn has a big farm of land. You'll have to go over and meet. So no, I didn't. I met my future husband down Cliftonora, and I fell in love with him. To get someone I fell in love with. And my father would come, and my uncle would come, and he'd say, Mary, this man over in Cairn has a big farm of land. You'll have to go over and meet. So no, I didn't. I met my future husband down Cliftonora, and I fell in love with him.
Thank you. Thanks. So I remember so clearly the night that this all came together. It all came together in one run. It was only about like 3 or 4 hours, and it was just suddenly there, you know. It was incredible to me because I had just focused on one single sample that meant something to me personally and was steeped in my culture. And I had made something that I was more proud of than anything I'd made in about 4 years of playing music. It was just like a eureka moment, like a switch going off. And then 3 months later, it came out, and it immediately started getting a lot of traction online. Radio stations started playing it all the time, and it went on Spotify, and it shot up to the top of the Spotify viral charts and stayed there for 6 weeks. People were just really, really in love with it. They could relate to it. It spoke to them on a kind of a real Irish level, and it was an incredible moment. And most importantly, it was different. Okay, so it was a completely different thing. Nobody else was creating this, and no one else could create that because it's so personal, you know. And that for me is like the holy grail when you're creating art. If you can create something that nobody else can create, that's how you make incredible art. It's not a massively new idea, you know. This has been around for years, for as long as art has been around, you know. And you can see it in certain kind of sections of art more than you can see it in other ones. let's take a singer-songwriter, okay? So a singer-songwriter comes in and they have this guitar that they've had for years, and they pick it up and it has a big story, and then just before they start their song, they go, this is a song about, and then they start talking about the song that they're about to play. And then when they start playing, people just hang on every word. You know, they're really, really interested in the song and they can relate to it. Another example would be creative writing, okay? The first rule that you get when you start creative writing, write about what you know. And that's exactly the exact same kind of idea as the idea that I'm talking about here. You're using your culture, your history, who you are, to write something that's unique to you. And then you can start spreading it out to a whole load of new avenues, okay? Let's say you're painting a picture, okay? Are you painting a kind of a vista or a scenery scene? Are you painting an object? Why are you painting it, you know? Does this relate to you somehow, or are you just painting something because you think it looks pretty? It has to relate back to you. That's super, super important. You can spread it back even farther, you know. What are the materials you're using? You know, even the canvas. Did you just buy a canvas in a shop, or are you painting on something that relates to the thing that you're creating? I guarantee you that if you're creating something and you just keep questioning why you're putting in all the elements that you're putting in, and you just keep asking, why am I doing this? How does this relate to me? I guarantee you, you'll create something that nobody else can create. It's a really big moment, you know? I'm going to leave you with one more track. This track is called Falling For You. It was from my latest EP, and it basically shows you exactly what I like now. Let's go back to the C sample that we had at the start. Okay, so this C sample was recorded in Bishop's Quarters in County Clare. It's where my parents used to bring me when I was younger. So it's kind of my first foray into the west of Ireland, I guess. And then I was in Achill with a couple of my mates last year, and we were staying at a house, and there were these beautiful wind chimes that were up on the side of the house. And that was these. And I just looped it around and made it a melody, okay? When I was recording this EP, I really wanted to just soak myself in the west of Ireland as much as possible. Didn't want to go into studios or anything like that, so I started renting out houses all along the west coast and building little mini studios in them, because I wanted to just be in the moment and be in the west of Ireland to really get it. And in one of those houses, I was cooking, and I managed to find a jar with some rice in it. And you guessed it. That's this here. So that's 3 elements, okay, of a song. And already, to me, that really sounds like the west of Ireland. You know, it creates the kind of an atmosphere, and you feel like you're in the west of Ireland. And that's 3 samples that I can explain. And then I wanted to get a vocalist on this track, so I got my good friend Sinead White, and instead of bringing her to a studio in Dublin like we usually would, I brought her to Valentia Island in Kerry, and we spent about a week recording the vocals. And Sinead fell in love with the west of Ireland, and she saw my love for it, and because of that, she wanted to make that the vocal kind of idea, you know. And unbeknownst to her, because this was the continuous thing, we were trying to sound like the west of Ireland, she started getting this like Irish lilt in her voice, which was really, really unique, even though she was still singing a contemporary song, and that's what this sounds like.
Like a burning flame, I know this love is here to stay. And on the darkest day, you wash all my fears away. Falling for you.
you. Cheers.